because I have known of many cases where there will be coaches that are training multiple pageant women in the same pageant for the same year. And they don't know, like the girls don't know that they're being trained by the same coach. Okay. And the coach purposely did not disclose this to the other girls. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Sophie Zhang, your go-to girl for pageantry advice, tips, and tricks to help you win your next big pageant. So I am so glad y'all can join me again here today. And I wanted to go over what it would take to help you find the right pageant coach for you. Now, again, this is a pageant coach is a big investment. It is something that I would recommend to any girl that wants to be a very strong competitive member in the pageant community. Again, this is for the women that want to strive and win the crown. This is not for somebody who's just getting their feet wet. They want to try it out. Really, a pageant coach should really be reserved for the young women who want to win their local pageants and go on to state pageants and then go on to national pageants, right? A pageant coach is there for you to really understand and really protect you and help you avoid the pitfalls that may occur if you are basically just starting out new. If you're just basically starting out new and you're not really sure where to begin, I wouldn't recommend a coach. But if you're already gone through your first pageant and you really like it, you want to give it another good shot, and you feel like you're ready for that kind of investment to invest in a coach, then yes, I would recommend you to move forward, find a dedicated coach, and then go from there. I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there. They are very much very exclusive, in my opinion. Coaches can be very exclusive because the pageant industry is very hush hush and it's very hard to find a reliable coach. So I just want to go over briefly what should happen if you want to find a valuable, meaningful coach, right? So this is for, again, the girls that do not mind on finding that kind of investment for their pageant journey. So I have my notes here in front of me. Do not mind if I read off the notes. It just helps keep me in track, and then so that I don't kind of wander off and start, doing different things. So how would you even start to find a pageant coach? You will notice as you go into the pageant, further into the pageant industry, it's kind of hard to find a reliable pageant coach, right? So I have, these are 3 easy, short ways to find a pageant coach for you if you are currently looking for one or in the future would like to look for a reliable pageant coach. The first step is to just ask family and friends, because sometimes the community can be very small or very big. And then it's just a matter of asking family and friends, especially if you have a feeling that those family members and friends have helped other pageant girls in the past, or they know somebody who's been in a pageant before. And then it's just a matter of recommending who they used, or having a family member introduce you to who they know or who is in their circle, because you never know what kind of information you'll find just simply by asking family and friends. So I would start there first. Start by asking family and friends to see, or if you have a family member or a friend that is a pageant coach, or has done pageants before, they can easily be your pageant coach as well. There's no rule book that says who can be a pageant coach and who cannot. So I would just recommend that, yes, please start with your family and friends first before you move on to these other steps. So the second step that I would recommend is to reach out to other pageant girls. It's very common nowadays that pageant sisterhood is very, very close knit. And if you are already friends with girls who are in pageants, just reach out to them. And most likely, if they don't share you their contacts or their pageant coach, then they will definitely refer you to other pageant coaches. Or if not, then they can just say no, right? It never hurts to reach out to another pageant sister that you widely respect and you don't mind, and they can definitely connect you, right, with who they went through. And you can decide again, you can decide if that pageant coach will be a good fit for you. And of course, I'm going to go over how you can tell whether that pageant coach is a good fit for you. Certainly. This is heads up. This is going to kind of be a long video. So if you need to take a break at any time, come back, grab a snack, grab some tea, coffee, whatever it is. It's very much a lot of information, a lot of details. Please review back to this video as many times as you want so that you can get the right advice to support yourself. And then the third thing is, sometimes there's just, let's say you're from a very small town, everybody kind of knows everyone. You don't have access to a good, reliable pageant coach. Well, sometimes the best pageant coach is the one that is not ideally the best pageant coach. I've known of plenty of pageant girls who did not have a traditional pageant coach, but they certainly reached out to their teachers, their professors, mentors that they valued. And those folks, although they could not teach them the catwalk and how to smile appropriately on stage or things in that area, those teachers or professors, they were really able to help them refine their interview or their speech on stage speech presentations, or really help them refine their platforms. And so even though you may not have access to the traditional pageant coach, sometimes having access to something like a really scholarly mentor or a professor or a college advisor that you're very close to, having folks just look over your pageant material and refining it to those professional standards makes all the difference. So sometimes you will have to go the non-traditional pageant route, and that's completely fine, especially for the smaller pageants where you're just starting out and you really don't have access to all these big glamorous coaches. It never hurts to reach out to teachers and professors and even assistant teachers or anybody who you admire and have access to. Those folks will really help shape and refine all of your pageant material when it comes to platforms or onstage speech and presentations. They can give you a wealth of information that traditionally young women who have a pageant coach, they don't go through that route. But again, it's refining the material so that you put your best foot forward. And that's the best way, just putting your best foot forward on that stage so that you can shine, right? So it never hurts to go the non-traditional route and getting a non-traditional coach. It's absolutely acceptable. So now let's move on to the next step, which is, okay, you've narrowed down a couple of coaches. Let's say you have one or two potential coaches that you have in mind that you want to reach out to. You're not really sure how to reach out to them. I would say just email them or call or text them if they are okay with call and text. And just introduce yourself very nicely, very kindly, and just say that you would love to meet up with them if they do not mind. How does that work for them? Or you would be more than welcome to take them out for coffee, just so that you can introduce yourself and see if y'all are a good fit. In my opinion, it's completely acceptable to have a consultation with young women who are interested in working with you. There's no harm in that. And I have heard of coaches before where they will just pick and choose their pageant girls. They will not do consultations with just any women out there that reach out to them. So there is that. They are more exclusive, and you just have to take that into consideration about those kinds of coaches. Like, do you really want to work with a coach that's just very exclusive and, you don't know what that's going to look like? So I would say go with the coaches that are open-minded and they don't mind meeting up with you and getting to know you more. It never hurts to get to know somebody more, especially over coffee, or even if you could just pick their brain. Any aspect of that will be very, very helpful for you in the long run, right? Because you don't know where to start, and it never hurts to just start over a nice cup of coffee. I would love it. I love coffee. I am a coffee drinker. I'm a tea drinker. Either way, you just contacting the coach already shows the coach that the smart coaches that you are very serious about your pageant journey and you want to take it to the next level. So, in my opinion, I always appreciate the young women that have the courage to reach out to me. All right. So, again, so let's say you set up this interview. What questions should you be asking this pageant coach to make sure they know what they're doing? Because there's a lot of pageant coaches out there that have just seen the glamour on TV, on social media, and let's say they just know they're a very good seamstress, and now suddenly they want to be a pageant coach, right? Or they've seen their sister do it many times and they've helped their sister enough, and now they feel like they're good enough to be a pageant coach. So these are just some of the questions that I have come up with my years of experience. These are the questions I would ask the pageant coach to really see if they have the experience that they say they do. So the first question I would ask is, I just want to make sure I'm getting it correctly. Have you do the research. Please do the research. You don't have to ask them directly, but you can do homework if they have won pageants before. So this may sound like something that's very, very straightforward, very logical, but it's kind of it sometimes it surprises me how many women go into pageants and their coaches have never won a single pageant. And this is, in my opinion, it's better if the coach has won a pageant before, at least one. Why? Because then now the coach has a full range of knowledge that they can share with you, not only as a pageant sister, but as a queen as well, the emotional roller coaster you'll go through. So if you have access to a pageant queen, somebody who's won before, that is a wealth of knowledge that no runaway model coach, that no professional interviewer coach, that no fashion designer coach will be able to share with you. The best coach is usually somebody who has won before. Somebody who's won before, so that they can see all of the hoops that you will jump through, and they can help basically give you the best protection you need to avoid all of those hurdles and give you the shortcuts that you're looking for, because they have gone through it themselves. So the second question I would ask is, what kind of pageant experience do they have, and in what capacity? So, and this can look like a wealth of things, right? They can easily say, oh, well, my sister was in a pageant. Oh, well, I ran in a pageant before. Oh, well, I've made clothes for pageant girls before. I have created music for pageant girls before. I have choreographed dance routines for pageant girls before. Because if they have not won a pageant before, how are they associated with pageants? How did they get associated with pageants? Does that make sense? Because you can't just be a fashion designer and then transition to being a pageant coach. It doesn't work that way. The industries are too different. And so you have to really ask them, like, what's their specialty, right? So if I know that there's a pageant coach and her specialty is designing and making clothes, then to me, I know that my clothing, if that is her specialty and she has pictures to prove it, then I know that I will look amazing from top to bottom, because that is her strength, right? But her strength may not necessarily be in interviewing questions or catwalks, because again, if you've never gone through it yourself, how would you know, right? So you have to ask them what their experience is. Now, if they said that, oh yeah, they did a couple years of modeling, and also they became a fashion designer. Okay, now they have a couple of years of experience of different skill sets that you would want. So that's just an example of what I mean by what kind of pageant experience and in what way do they have. Because again, you want to know that so that you know what kind of coach you're getting, basically. I hope that makes sense. And then the third question I would ask is, what are their rates? What are their requirements to becoming a pageant, basically pageant mentee or pageant student under them? Because I know there are coaches that specifically go out there and just hunt for their next girl. Like they don't do interviews, they don't do nothing. They just go and pick the one who they think is the prettiest, the best likely, physically everything looks right for them. And they go and they pick that girl. So I know some coaches do that. And then I know there are some coaches who they will go and have interviews and they'll interview a lot of different girls, but they'll only choose one girl to work with. And then I know other coaches that do not mind working with multiple girls in multiple capacities, in multiple ways. So it just ranges from the coach, and it just all depends. It all depends on the capacity of the coach, what they can do, what they can offer. And then also sometimes it comes down to their personal preference too. Because what if they just want the girls who win all the time? They're not going to cater their services to young women who are just starting out. That's just the truth. And it's sad to say, but again, it's up to the coach to see if they like you. And then it's up to you too to see if you like them. Because what if you check all their boxes, but they don't check your boxes, right? So keep that in mind, and see if they check your boxes too. Because you have with this video, now you have a list of boxes that you can ask those coaches to make sure that you're getting a seasoned coach. And then, of course, I mentioned rates earlier. All coaches, they charge very differently. Some charge by the hour. Some charge a prorated fee. Some only take a percentage from the prize money if you win. So it's all different. Okay, no coach charges the same. Some coaches are totally volunteer based. Some coaches, it's all up to those coaches, basically. And you have to be honest with yourself. Can you afford this coach, right? If that coach is charging $100, $200 an hour, right? Can you afford that? Can you realistically afford that without going broke? So please take that into consideration. I would not want you to go broke because you're trying to afford this pageant coach. Unless you just have a lot of sponsors or the coach is willing to sponsor you, that's a different story. But of course, I would not want you to start going broke and now you can't afford other things because now you want this really fancy coach. And the fourth thing I would ask them is, what is their training style, right? And what is their teaching style? Because every coach does not teach the same. And I will give you a quick story. I know a lot of you ladies out there have been asking me about more stories, pageant stories. And how do I say this? Not all pageant coaches train the same way. So I'll give you an example. Like when I train my girls, I try to train them and give them as much details and information as possible, even though they may not know it or understand it at the time. And the reason why I do that is because I know that if I can provide them the information ahead of time, and even if they don't understand it at that time that I'm teaching them, I know with my methods that later on down their pageant journey, something in their mind will click and be like, oh, that's why she told me that, right? It doesn't make sense until I've experienced certain things, and then it'll make sense why she said those things. So I like to give my information to my girls in the middle of my training, even though sometimes it may come off as overkill. So that's just kind of an example of how I like to train my girls, because I like them to be informed and educated. I've known of other pageant coaches that they are just yelling and, you know, bicthing their girls all the time, you know, and that's just their training style. They are very strict, loud, abrupt, like that's their way of motivating the girls, I guess, and that's their way of encouraging their girls and hustling their girls, I guess, to get serious. Because I honestly can't explain it. I can't explain any reasons why you would be, you know, just yelling at your girls all the time. But I know of them, they exist, and that's just their way of training the girls. And the young women that train with them, they either they don't know any better or they're used to it. Like they're just completely okay with that kind of rough, brute style of coaching, which I am not. I don't like to do that at all. I tend to be very calm. I don't like any kind of extra anxiety or noise if I don't have to add to it. But some coaches, they like that. They like that style of training. So you have to see if what style fits you better, because sometimes some women, they like that kind of hustle feel. Now, if you know that you like that hustle feel and you're really not going to get up and do anything, take anything seriously, unless that coach is on you, like military style, maybe those types of coaches are better for you. And I know there are some women who just don't like the yelling and the being pushy and being bossy. And so those women probably would fit me better, because I don't like to put that kind of pressure on my girls either. I tell them, you know, what's serious, what they need to take part in, and then they can decide for themselves how they're going to move forward. I don't like to be pushy. I'm not a pushy coach, but I will tell you if it's urgent or not. And then we'll work together from there. But again, you have to figure out what your learning style is and make sure that it matches that coach. Because the worst case scenario, you do not want to be stuck with a coach that you paid so much money for and you learn that their teaching style is not for you. So it's best if you ask that up front. So you make sure that that coach is compatible with you. That's the best bet for you, so you don't waste your time in the future. Another thing that you should ask yourself before meeting with this coach, or something you should know ahead of time, and really what that is ask how much commitment you can have with this coach. And the reason why I ask is that, you know, everybody, their lives are very busy. Your life is busy. The coach's life is busy. This is probably not their full-time job that they are doing. So it's very important for you to figure out how much commitment can you give to this coach, right? Because when I train my girls, I like to have as much commitment and time as possible with the young woman, so that we can develop the game plan, the trust of how they can put their best foot forward. But some girls, it's just impossible. They're working a lot. They're going to school. So maybe just a coach that offers video chats, virtual trainings, maybe that is better. That's the kind of commitment you can commit to at that time. And that's completely fine. But it's best if you know it up front, because I have had experience with women who just, they cannot make it to the rehearsals, right? Or they're always showing up late to rehearsals. And of course, it's common knowledge that yes, you should go to the rehearsal so you can get the training you need. But honestly, maybe it was just a commitment issue, a timing issue that those women did not even know that they could not even commit to. So it's always best to check your schedule and see what that looks like for you, to see if you can even commit to an continuous in-person trainings with an actual coach. Or maybe you need to go find a coach that will just offer virtual trainings, Zoom trainings, and go from there. Because some women, they're just very busy and they can't fully commit to meeting with somebody once or twice or 3 times a week to train. So you really need to reflect on yourself and see what that looks like. And then the next little tidbit that I added was some red flags you need to be aware of when you are trying to find a pageant coach to work with. So the first red flag that I would recommend is that they lead you on. So what does that mean? Um, in my experience, when somebody that you're trying to get a hold of, um, they kind of lead you on, and that kind of means like they'll tell you yes, yeah, we can meet, or no, it's not a good time. They call off your meeting, but then they tell you that they're very interested. They kind of do the back and forth with you. That coach is probably not a good fit because um, obviously you have things that are other things that are on your mind beyond finding a pageant coach. And if you will just working, if you meet somebody, and this is across the board, ladies, if you meet somebody who's consistently leading you on, do you really want them to be on your team or in your life? Do you really want that kind of commitment in your life where they're kind of wishy-washy? They keep telling you yes, they're interested, but then they keep, quitting on you or rescheduling on you, or that is just not good practice, period. Okay. It's best for you to just say, hey, um it looks like, eh, your schedule looks very busy. It's all right if you cannot commit. It's completely fine. I'm thinking about going another direction. That's totally fine to just end it like that, because you do not want the pageant coach that's like wishy-washy. Because what if you get into commitment with them and then they're wishy-washy? They're like, I like this gown, or no. A couple minutes later they change it to another gown. I like this hairstyle, and they keep changing it to another. You don't want that. Or like they're the ones that are late to the rehearsals, right? You do not want a coach that's supposed to be helping you grow be the one that's holding you back. All right. So sometimes those kinds of coaches, you just want to cut them out right away as soon as you see them, or as soon as they start giving you hints that they're just kind of leading you on and you're not really getting anything from them. And then the second red flag that I would share with you is that they are training multiple women. And I would say that if they're training multiple women at the same time, especially multiple women that are going into the same pageant as you need to ask them what is their confidentiality plan for that. Because I have known of many cases where there will be coaches that are training multiple pageant women in the same pageant for the same year. And they don't know, like the girls don't know that they're being trained by the same coach. Okay. And the coach purposely did not disclose this to the other girls. So my issue is, where is the trust? Where is the trust in that, right? Because if I was a pageant girl and I come to find that my coach, that I trust her with all of my secrets and all of my fears and all of my plans for my gowns and everything else, right, to give me my advantage on stage, and I find out halfway through that she's trained, or on the day of, God forbid, on the day of, that she's training another girl that I didn't know about that was in the same pageant, I would have so many trust issues. Okay. Like I would be like, okay, has she been talking about me? Has she been comparing me to these other women that she's also training? Like, has she been sharing our conversations? Has she been sharing our clothing and design strategies? Like I would have so much anxiety just thinking about that. So it's better if you ask the pageant coach ahead of time. And please, pageant coaches, do not keep it a secret. Please tell, these potential girls that you may or may not end up training that, yes, sorry, I am training another girl for this pageant. If you're okay with it, I don't mind training you as well. I keep, and then you share your confidentiality plan with the young women. and y'all can go from there. But please do not keep it a secret. Okay, like there's just been so much drama about pageant coaches keeping it secret from other women. It's just all bad. It's just, you just don't want to go there. You do not want to go there. You do not want to be one of those women that were just treated less than because that coach already had their winning horse, metaphorically, and you were just somebody that they could make a couple bucks from, or somebody they took pity on. It's just not good. You want the coach to treat you fairly, equally. You want them to make sure they do their best to help you shine too, even if they do have multiple women that they're training. That's just my opinion. And then the next thing that I would say that is a red flag is if they sign you on and you are training with them, but months go by, like a month or two, or even 2 weeks go by, and you hear nothing from them, like nothing, unless they're, gravely ill or in the hospital or something. You should be like your coach right off the bat should be giving you a very structured plan of how they plan to make you successful. It should not just be like weeks where you don't hear from them. You need to be in constant contact with them. And same thing for you too. And for coaches, they should be in constant contact with you, and you should be in constant contact with them to know that you guys are following your strategy, your plan. You guys have committed to designated rehearsal time and location. And that's just the best bet. Like, you don't want to be with a coach that like just basically deserts you. Like, deserts you? Not deserts you, that's a food. Deserted you? Yes, somebody who's deserted you, but you've already signed on with them. It's better to just, again, cut it off. The sooner the better, so you can move on and find a different coach if it's like that, because you don't want to waste your time. The pageant's going to be here, and you need a coach that's committed to you. That's it. That's straightforward. Other topics that I would also share with y'all is if you are being approached by a pageant coach and they are trying to recruit you. Okay, so these are some of the things you need to consider if a pageant coach comes to you and they think you're a very lovely lady and they want you to join a XYZ pageant. Okay, so 1, do you want to be in a pageant at that time? Can you commit to a pageant at that time? Because you should not be pressured or feel pressured to be in a pageant just because somebody makes you feel good about it. You should be interested in wanting to go into the pageant. You should want to go. You should not be like, oh, like my mom and dad's making me go and this coach is approaching me. You should want to be in a pageant because there are plenty of women who want to be in a pageant and they're not being approached by coaches. But I feel like if you don't have the heart to do well in a pageant, why take that opportunity from a girl who really, really wants to be in the pageant and wants to do well in the pageant, right? So if your heart is not into it, you're not even interested, you should probably do your homework first. Ask the coach, you're going to take a rain check, and do a little bit of your own digging to see if maybe down the road you are ready and that you will definitely consider them in the future if you want to. So definitely do not feel pressured by a coach if they approach you to be in a pageant, right? That's totally normal. But again, I would just say that please have your heart in it if you do say yes to wanting to be in a pageant and you don't mind working with that particular coach. And then the second thing you need to consider is if this coach is asking you to join a pageant, what is your support system? What does that look like? Is that coach gonna support you 110%? Does that coach have like 4 or 5 other girls they're training? What does that look like? What is your level of support from your family members and your friends? What does that look like? Because it's not enough to just say, yeah, sure, I want to do it. What is the support? Because pageantry is all about the right kind of support. And it's hard when, yes, you are a young, beautiful woman and a coach is approaching you, but really your resources are just not all there at that time. So you need to have that honest inner conversation with yourself to see if you can even provide that kind of support to be in a pageant. And then next is, do you know or trust this coach? Or are they just a random coach that you met on the street, right? Or at an event and you don't know who they are? You're not really sure what they're about. How do you trust them? Or how is that coach going to develop the trust? So if you don't trust that coach, I would say don't even make up a story saying, no, I'm not interested. But really, you don't trust that coach. Okay. So it's completely fine to say no. And then lastly, do they have a good reputation as a coach, right? Because I know plenty of coaches out there that do not have good reputations, ladies. So beware, because their reputation will just stick onto you like glue, right? Um, and then you will forever just be known as, oh yeah, that coach trained that girl, and that coach is just not it. Like her or his reputation will stick onto you like glue. So please, please, please consider the reputation of that coach, because it will be your reputation. If that coach is known for some weird, sketchy things, then now you're just going to be the girl that got trained by the coach who did weird, sketchy things. So the coach's reputation is very important. So choose wisely, ladies. Committing to a coach is a big commitment. Choose wisely, I would say. And then another thing is, do you need one? Again, earlier I mentioned just some girls don't need pageant coaches, but if you want one, um, the girls who want it are the ones that I would say that really want to get the advantage in the game. They really want that investment in the game. They really want to do well in the pageant, right? And then, of course, you might want to consider a coach if you have nowhere to start. You're just absolutely clueless and you have nowhere to start. You're not very familiar, but you're very interested. Sometimes it's good to have a coach, even if it's just to have their services for a little while, just so that they can walk you through everything. It's very, very important. And then lastly, you might want to consider a coach if you really love pageantry. But watching TV and social media and YouTube is just not going to do it. Okay, it's very rare that young women can watch these things and then mimic it and do well and win pageants. It's very, very rare. So that's why coaches are there. That's why coaches have the skill sets they need that they can give to you, train you, so you are putting your best foot forward. In my opinion, you should be getting a coach that helps you in the areas that you need help with. And those coaches can identify your areas of improvement. Oh, I have a pro tip here. Let me read this. What separates a good coach from a great coach is that they will identify the potential pitfalls that you may run into in the pageant journey and not just rush you through it. So that's my pro tip for you guys. Make sure you guys get a coach that's informative and they can really, really guide you through all the things that you're going through and answer all the questions you may have in your pageant journey. You don't want a coach that's just like, well, you don't need to know that. Because I know coaches like that. Well, they'll just be like, well, you don't need to know that right now. You don't need to worry about that. Why are you really worrying about that? I'll worry about that for you, right? And the great coaches are the ones that actually sit you down and explain every single little thing with you, regardless of whether you have time or not. Or they'll always just say, you know what? We're very busy right now and we're right in a crunch time, but I will definitely explain it to you at the right time. Okay. Those are the coaches that you want to look for. Okay. Because I know there are coaches out there that are like, why are you worrying about that? You don't need to worry about that. Just worry about looking pretty on stage, right? So I know that there are coaches out there like that. that's just a little pro tip to separate the good coaches from the great coaches, because there's a lot of good coaches. There's very few great quality coaches. I know I was going to mention another story for y'all, so I'm going to give you guys a story because I know you guys love the stories. There was a young woman that I took on, and it was basically their final photo shoot. It was like the final photo shoot before the big pageant. And then right after that, she met with me, and then she ended up working with me, which was great. But on that day, she was having trouble picking and choosing what looks were the best for her for that photo shoot. And as she was having this private conversation with the pageant organizers and coordinators that were there, she was trying to get advice from them. She had not had a formal coach yet. And then one of the coaches turned to her and said, "You know what? You look really, really dumb if you wear that." Right? And I had not found out until after the fact, but I will give you a warning shot right now. If I had been that girl's coach and you had badmouthed my girl, whether I was there or not, absolutely you would hear it from me. I would raise hell, okay? And I know those coordinators did not do nothing about it. They let that lady slide, okay? They let that lady slide, and they let that poor girl be yelled at in front of everybody else there, okay? So again, not every pageant coach is professional, is a quality pageant coach, all right? Some pageant coaches, they have no problem telling off other girls that they are not training, that they look ridiculous in something. Okay, so again, that's why you need a pageant coach, in my opinion, really to fight and push back, because there are ridiculously disrespectful coaches out there that have no problem mouthing off to other girls that do not have coaches or parents or whatever present. So in my opinion, if I had been there, if I had been that girl's coach at that time, oh, you bet you it would have been World War III. For sure, because I do not like no other coach bad mouthing any of my girls, any of my potential girls. You better watch it, okay? Because now you're just, don't worry about those girls. Go worry about your girl, okay? Simple as that. Worry about your girl, and I'll worry about my girls. That is it. Don't go bad mouthing them because you think you can get away with it. All right, so that was my story, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed so much information, but I hope this was helpful, and I hope that this will take you one step forward in the right direction in your pageant journey. And I wish all of you the best of luck when you're out there searching for a quality pageant coach. And again, my name is Sophie Zhang. And then if you liked what I am sharing with y'all today, please consider liking, subscribing, and then sharing this content to other pageant girls. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Till next time.